Hello and welcome to Copenhagen Fashion Week and Small Talks, Big Conversations. The topic of this series is Tech to Nurture Change. My name is Johan Wirfält and I'm a cultural director at Kulturhuset Stadsteatern in Stockholm, Sweden. And that's right, I said Stockholm because we're doing this digitally and we are broadcasting live from A House in Stockholm. A House is a hub for startups and entrepreneurs working in the creative industries. In today's first talk, we will look closer at how the increasing demands on fashion to become a sustainable, circular economy is pushing the boundaries of material handling and fabric innovation, and actually creating a closed production loop. Technology has always been an integral part of fashion. 200 years ago, during the Industrial Revolution, power looms completely transformed the manufacturing of clothing materials, which made weaving and mass production of clothes possible. Fast forward to today, and we are starting to see the beginning of a new revolution, a more eco-friendly and sustainable way of producing fashion. The Swedish company Renewcell, which is backed by H&M Group, among others, is part of the global vanguard in this area, innovating and creating fabrics from recycled clothes. Recently, they launched Circulose, a new natural material based on recycled cotton fibers, which is now used by the aforementioned H&M and also Levis Jeans. Joining me for this conversation is Renewcell's CEO, Patrik Lundström. Welcome, Patrik.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and great to have you here. So tell us, Patrik, first of all, give a little background on Renewcell. When did you start this company? What do you do, etc.?
Well, Renewcell was started already back in 2012 by two of the leading scientists in the pulp and paper industry, Michael Lindström and Gunnar Henriksson from the Royal Institute of Technology. And these two gentlemen are world-leading authorities in how to make pulp. But then what we're doing is actually we're taking used clothes, so your old jeans, for example, and we are putting them into our process, and then we can make new fibers out of those clothes, creating circularity in the fashion industry. So, that is something that is really important. What we also see is that the Copenhagen Fashion Week has put an emphasis on this, that sustainability in the fashion industry is important, but even more in particular that we need to go into circularity in order to create a sustainable world and that doesn't only go for the fashion industry, but also for all industries. We need to use what we once have already produced, like paper or bottles or what have you. And we're moving in that direction, but in the textile industry, we have not had that technology yet. We have a linear process, and what Renewcell is all about and what our material Circulose is all about is creating circularity in the fashion industry.
Excellent, and yeah, that brings us to Circulose. So can you just quickly, for anyone not familiar with the process, be included then, describe how this works?
Well, we take, let's say, an old pair of jeans, and we take them into our process, we shred them and pull them apart, and then we put it into what we call the wet process, and that means that we're separating the fibers. And then we are drying that, and we are then selling it as a pulp to the viscose industry. So the viscose industry, it's kind of broad name, but they can use that material for making lyocell, modal, or viscose. And what they do is they take these sheets or this pulp, and they push it through a nozzle, and then they create new fibers out of that. And that fiber is then spun into yarns and made into textiles and then made clothes. So that's how it works. And
so you don't actually create the fabrics, you create the raw material for the fabrics?
We create the raw material for the fabrics. And our expertise is taking cotton clothes and making that into new pulp. And that has not been possible before. The cotton fiber is a very particular fiber because it looks like a helix kind of, and it actually connects to one another, which make cotton a fantastic fiber. It's very durable and very strong. But to separate those fibers is not easy, and that's kind of the core of our innovation, which we have, of course, patented.
Excellent. And obviously, waste is a problem in all industries, but it might be a particular problem in fashion traditionally. So how much of fashion is wasted, and what do you think can be done about it? I mean, using obviously your raw materials and other processes.
Well, today the fashion industry or the textile industry is using approximately 100 million tons per year of textile fibers, and the three large fibers are cotton, polyester, and viscose. Cotton has the problem with it's extremely resource intense. It's nice to wear, but it's very resource intense. For example, the cotton industry created the Aral Desert. It was the Aral Sea before, and the Aral Sea is gone. It also uses a lot of pesticides and fertilizers because it's huge monocultures. So that is a very difficult material, and there's also not more land on Earth to produce more cotton. So that's one side. And then you have the polyesters. Polyester is a plastic. It comes from crude oil. And when we are washing our clothes, we wash out a lot of microplastics. And when these microplastics come into the seas, it's almost impossible to remove them. And today, approximately 35% of all microplastics come from the fashion industry and washing our clothes. And of course, then you have viscose, and there we are chopping down the woods. And there are, of course, woods, particularly here in Sweden, which are well kept and done in a sustainable manner. But there's also a lot of woods in other parts of the world that are, ancient forests and so forth, and habitats are being destroyed.
So, I mean, many activists and also a lot of scientists talk about the need to reduce consumption. Shouldn't that be the priority rather than recycling? Or do you see a way of doing both?
Actually, I fully agree with that. I mean, in the end, what we need to do is we need to use, reuse, and recycle. And with that is use longer and maybe less. And then reuse by second-hand or even mending old clothes. And then recycle. And that's where a company like Renewcell comes in. We need to find those technologies of recycling.
And speaking of, you brought a pair of excellent wide Levis jeans here for us to look at.
Yeah, these are Levis jeans called High Loose that we just launched together with Levi's. This consists of 60% cotton and 40% of viscose. So it's a recycled material in these jeans.
Feels just like regular jeans.
Yeah, feels like cotton and looks like cotton. Yeah. And this is just the first step in the journey of creating sustainable jeans. So we're very happy with the collaboration with Levi's.
So which other brands are you working with? Can you name a few of them, or are they all secret? Or?
I can only name the ones that we have already launched with, and the other one is of course H&M, where we launched the blue dress in March, and then we have a contact, and we are in discussion with approximately 70 of the world's brands, and there's more launches coming as we go forward. But before we have actually launched, we should not talk about just the particular ones, but we get calls from companies out there. Like Ralph Lauren's and these type of companies who would like to get in contact with us and work together with Renewcell.
So would you say that, do you see a big interest in that, and would you say that it has become bigger since you actually started the company 7 years ago? So is there a trend in that sense in terms of people wanting to be more sustainable and wanting to produce more sustainable fashion?
Absolutely. I see it coming. I see it coming actually from Main Street. I see it from the consumers who are becoming more and more environmentally interested and aware.
Yeah.
We eat sustainably, we travel sustainably, and so forth. But it also goes to the fashion industry, and the fashion industry is, of course, by nature, trend sensitive, and seeing that there is such a drive in the fashion or on Main Street, on the consumer side, wanting to have sustainability, they of course need to go in that direction. We also see magazines like Vogue and ID and so forth. They're putting people like Greta on the first page, and you can think what you want about that, but it's a very strong signal that they think that the fashion industry need to go in a sustainable and circular way. So we see a lot of interest, and also just a pure fact that a small company in Sweden, we get calls from the big brands, from the global brands, and they want to start up collaboration with us. And I find that as a proof of our concept.
So just to be clear, you're saying that it's mainly consumer driven, what you're seeing, or is it?
No, not really. I mean, if you look at all the brands, the majority of brands have a sustainability agenda. And if you look at their sustainability agendas, it's very aggressive. They would like to make this happen now.
Yeah.
The problem is, and I feel a bit sorry for the fashion industry in that sense, the technologies have not existed. And that's where companies like Renewcell come in. We can make it happen, and we can actually create a platform from where the fashion industry can become sustainable, and we can create circularity in textiles in the same way as we've done in paper. About 35 years ago, we didn't recycle paper at all. And everybody was saying that recycling of paper destroys the fibers and it's not possible to make a strong paper. Today, almost 60% of all papers are recycled. It's an industry worth $58 billion. And I think that is exactly the way we're going in the textile industry, although it's going to go a lot faster because it's consumer and brand driven.
Yeah. And before Renewcell, you spent many years working for GE, General Electric. What lessons from there can you bring to the world of fashion, you think?
Well, working for a large organization like General Electric is really nice to have when you go into building a company like Renewcell, and because you know what it takes in order to actually make a plant, build these type of processes, and to make this company big. What it also brings is how important it is to actually just do it. You cannot really hesitate too much. You need to be careful, of course, but if you're going to build a company like ours, you need to have a little bit of gut. And you also need to have done it a couple of times before, so you don't fall into the traps that might be there in the business world. But my biggest take is that from GE is make it happen and just go for it. And I think we have such a strong scientific foundation, and we also have very, very strong interest from the investment community. And we also have a very, very strong, as I mentioned, interest from the brands and so forth. So I see quite little risk in this type of company. This has to happen, and Renewcell, I think, is one of the companies that can make it happen.
Yeah. And just quickly, looking forward, then the company was started 7 or 8 years ago. If let's say we look forward 7 or 8 years from now, where do you think the fashion world will be then in terms of sustainability and having built a more circular economy and production loop?
I think the problem that we're having is that we don't have enough capacity with circular materials. But I think we're going into sustainable materials, but moreover recycled materials. So 5 to 10 years from now, maybe we could have 1/4 of the 100 million tons as recycled. But that means that we're going to have a lot more companies than only Renewcell doing that, because we can only do so much, and we need more companies doing the same thing that we are doing. And also, what I think is important is that, and where the fashion industry and designers can help us, is design for circularity. Today, we're mixing a lot of different materials, and that makes it difficult to recycle. That's the same with bottles or with electronics and so forth. We need to ensure that we have designed for circularity, and then companies like us can take it on and recycle it over and over again.
Excellent. A great message for the future then. And with that, thank you, Patrick, for joining us, and thank you to all the viewers watching. Please come back later this week, as we will have more conversations, more small talks and big conversations from Copenhagen Fashion Week. Thank you.